now recognize Mr. Swalwell, the ranking member of the Cyber Subcommittee, the gentleman from California, for his 5 minutes of questioning. And we will recess after his questioning.
A longtime friend of mine who works in the intelligence community once told me, Eric, that the challenge with our job is that we're only known for our failures, that most Americans have no idea about the successes that we achieve on behalf of the American people every day. And whether it's fentanyl seizures at the border or a terrorist plot that's disrupted, most folks don't know about it and aren't able to thank you for it. And when they do see the work, they see it in a public hearing like today. So I just want to thank you. I also want to thank Director Wray and Secretary Mayorkas for sending to my congressional district a couple weeks ago some of your staff from the special agent in charge in San Francisco to the CISA office to assist us in hosting a cybersecurity summit for our small business community. It was very effective and helpful, and I think they have a better sense of where they should go. Director Wray, I wanted to ask you about the extrajudicial killing of a Sikh leader in Canada that occurred outside of Gurdwara. My district has one of the largest Sikh populations in the United States. An individual, Dr. Pritpal Singh, who's the founder of the American Sikh Caucus, lives in Fremont, which is in my district. He has very publicly acknowledged that he was warned by the FBI about his own safety, and I just want to know what the FBI is doing right now to protect individuals in the Sikh community from any threats to them because of who they worship, what they believe.
So without talking about any investigative work that we're doing, other than to note that part of what you're describing involves an increase in violence and threats against people for their views, for their beliefs. For example, the transnational repression that we talk about so much is certainly a variation of that. And we've seen that from the Chinese and the Iranians, for example. But when it comes to the Sikh community here, we do have quite a number of efforts to engage in outreach, to raise awareness about who to call, what to be on the lookout for, to understand what a hate crime is, for example, because one of the things we know about hate crimes is whether they're against Sikhs or anybody else, is they're chronically underreported, and part of that is for people to understand what a hate crime looks like, so they know when to reach out to law enforcement. So we've tried to kind of raise awareness, and it kind of ties into your broader point about the intelligence community in terms of prevention, quietly preventing things. You know, our vision statement is ahead of the threat, and if we are successful in being ahead of the threat, of course the threat doesn't end up coming to fruition. It's a little bit like being the holder for a place kicker. You can distinguish yourself if the kick goes smoothly, but it's hard not to be noticed if the kick doesn't go well.
At the end of the year, Section 702, Director, expires. And this is a part of the law that allows the intelligence community and law enforcement to investigate and stop threats, credible threats to the United States, to our homeland, to our people from abroad. Could you conceive a greater case of self-sabotage to create a vulnerability to the United States than letting Section 702 lapse at the end of the year?
I think letting 702 lapse would be short-sighted at best and dangerous in the extreme at worst. To be clear, 702 is what allows us to get eyes on foreign threats overseas that pose national security threats to people here in the homeland. And as somebody who was in FBI headquarters on 9/11 and spent an awful lot of my time in the Bush administration and the years after that engaging with the victims and the families of the 9/11 attacks, we should never be in a position where we can't say we did everything constitutionally and legally in our power to see the threats when they're coming. And that's what 702 enables us to do. And especially in this heightened threat environment with, as I said in my opening statement, a rogues gallery of foreign terrorist organizations calling for attacks against us, the idea that we would deliberately blind ourselves to information that is lawfully in our possession just strikes me as crazy.
And do you believe a foreign national terrorist suspect should be afforded the right to a warrant requirement?
No, and I don't think there's any court that suggests otherwise. There's a lot of people throwing around the words unconstitutional in this debate, and yet I don't think there's any court that has found that the way in which 702 is used is in any way a violation of the Fourth Amendment or the Constitution.
Because these are foreign nationals overseas.
Yes, correct.
Thank you. Yield back.
Gentlemen yields. We will recess until 10 minutes after the last vote, and we